Welcome back to the OCAD Youth Sports Report. My name is Avishai Saul. I am your host, and this week has been a bit slow in the world of sports. There hasn't been like a bunch of giant news stories flying around, or scandals, or giant games, or boxing matches, or whatever. It's just been a bit of an average week. So I want to take advantage of this time to do a sort of a themed episode, a segmented episode on my favorite sport, basketball. Is my favorite. It's the one I know best, it's the one I play the most, and the one I know the most history about. On top of that, it's the sport that I get the angriest about when people have misconceptions or false information. So for this episode, I picked out 5 common misconceptions within basketball fandom, and I'm going to debunk them for you today. Let's get started. We got to start with one of the greatest rivalries in sports history, which is Bird versus Magic. Most people think they understand the argument between Bird and Magic, when in reality, they might understand the endpoints, the headline, but they don't get all of the nitty-gritty information. First, you have to understand what kind of players they were. Both were elite passers, one of the greatest passers of all time, not just Magic, but Bird too, both of them. Both were great scorers. Bird scored more from the perimeter, more of a shooter. Magic had a dominant post game. He was this huge point guard that he could score on other point guards because they were too small, and then if you send the double, he was an incredible passer. He would pass it out. But here's where people get mixed up. Neither of them were great defenders. Bird wasn't a great defender, and Magic wasn't a great defender. The way their teams would use them is they would sort of keep them as almost like a free safety, playing the passing lanes, getting steals, switching onto guys, but one-on-one, they actually weren't great defenders, which is a common misconception. Bird scored more, Magic won more titles, but here's where people get mixed up. Most people know, or most people agree, that Magic Johnson is a half step better than Larry Bird, but they don't know why. Here's why. And it starts off with me saying that Apex Larry Bird was better than Apex Magic Johnson. The best version of Larry Bird was better than the best version of Magic Johnson. From the first half of their careers, they came into the league the same year, 1979-80 season. Basically from 1980 to 1987, Bird was better. He won 3 straight MVPs, he won 3 titles, and was running the league. Now, could there have been a little bit of racially charged bias in the media? Possibly, but I'm just looking at the facts here. But the problem with Bird's career was that after his prime, it got bad fast. He had a bad history with back injuries, and basically from 1988 onwards, the difference between Bird and Magic was lopsided in favor of Magic. Magic's career apex lasted way longer than Bird's, even though it was cut short due to his contracting the HIV virus in 92. I'm sure I'll get fact-checked for that. So, in conclusion, Apex Bird, better than Apex Magic. Total career Magic, better than total career Bird. Second, most people think that Vince Carter is one of the all-time greats, when in reality, he's actually really overrated. Ignore for a minute that he was a flopping whiner baby who moped his way out of Toronto. He never wanted to play in Canada, and he basically spent the second half of his time here doing the "get me out of here, it sucks," blah, 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 that whole thing. His greatest moment came in the 2000 dunk contest. And while it is one of the greatest dunking exhibitions ever, it's still not really basketball. When we're trying to weigh the impact of his career as a basketball player, winning a dunk contest basically counts for nothing. He peaked as a star during his 3rd year in the league when he led the Raptors to a 47-35 record, which is solid, but not great. And then in those playoffs, he defeated the Knicks in the first round in a best-of-5 series, and then the second round had a legendary duel with Allen Iverson in which he swapped 50-point games and before eventually falling to the Sixers in 7 games. So his 2 greatest career moments was a dunk contest and a second-round series in which he lost. And people talk about him like he's the first ballot Hall of Famer, when in reality he's not. I get that he was the city of Toronto's first major star, and we will always thank him for keeping basketball in the city alive through that. But when you're looking at him in comparison to other legends of the game, you gotta look at it with some objectivity and see that he's not actually as good as the highlights might suggest. Third, white man can't jump? That's actually correct, they can. Fourth, Moses Malone. You might not have even heard the name Moses Malone before, but that's why I want to talk about him today. Moses Malone is the most underrated player in NBA history. Now, why is that? Let's go over the credentials. He played 20 years in the league. He came in the late 70s, played through the 80s, had his prime there. He was the third best player of the 80s behind Bird and Magic. He's a 13-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Defensive Player, 3-time MVP, 1983 Finals MVP, season averages of 31 points a game, 18 rebounds. So why isn't Moses remembered the way he should be? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, he was quiet off the floor. He had a great personality. His teammates, particularly Charles Barkley, looked up to him an incredible amount, but he wasn't like a big personality the way Magic was. Two, his greatest skill was rebounding, particularly offensive rebounding. If you imagine rebounding, the shot goes up, it misses, you grab the rebound, right? That's rebounding. Offensive rebounding is when you're on offense, your teammate puts a shot up, it bobbles, and you still get the rebound, which is much more difficult because when you're on offense, the defense is between you and the basket, which means you're in much better position to get that rebound. Moses was better than anybody else in getting offensive rebounds, which is but not just better than anybody else, far and away. In his career, he tallied over 6,700 offensive rebounds, which dwarfs the next person in the line, which barely has over 4,500. So his most marketable skill, he doesn't have that one, the rebounds, it's an incredible achievement. It speaks to his power, it speaks to his athleticism. He was known as a very quick jumper, not like a high flyer, but a quick jumper off 2 feet. And it speaks to how much he really cares. You got to fight to get all those rebounds. 18 rebounds a game over the course of a season is nothing to sniff at, especially in the modern era. But he doesn't put on a show. As good as Moses was, it wasn't really a show. But his skills on the basketball court contributed to winning. He was the best player on the title team, and he gets forgotten about. That's why I'm here today, to tell you that Moses Malone cannot be forgotten about. Number 5, and this is the one that I'm going to get torched for. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Most people think that Kobe Bryant is one of the 5 greatest basketball players ever, when in reality, he's not. And it's not even that close. Here's my top 10. Number 1, Michael Jordan. Number 2, LeBron James. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 4, Magic Johnson. Number 5, Larry Bird. Number 6, Bill Russell. Number 7, Shaquille O'Neal. Number 8, Tim Duncan. Number 9, Kobe Bryant. And number 10, Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, Kobe fans, just give me a second. First, the championships. Kobe Bryant has 5 rings, which is a lot, but he has only 2 Finals MVPs and should probably only have 1. For his first 3 titles, he was backing up Shaq in LA, which you can't count that against him. He was one of the greatest, Shaq and Kobe was the greatest 1-2 combos ever, but he was not the best guy on those teams. Then for the 2 titles he won later, he was in the Lakers in 2009, where he played incredible, beat the Magic in the finals, and 2010, where he actually didn't play that well in the finals. In that series, he shot barely over 40%, and Pau Gasol, which was his backup, his center, his running mate, his Robin at the time, probably actually should have won Finals MVP. He had an incredible series, and my sports writing idol, Bill Simmons, he's a huge Boston Celtics fan, and he remembers that series, and he remembers that he was more afraid as a Celtics fan of Pau than of Kobe in that series. People talk about the ball hogging for Kobe, which I don't count against him that much, because if you're a superstar of that caliber, not hogging the ball is almost counterproductive. You gotta be, if you're the best, then you gotta take the most shots. You gotta have the ball most of the time. That's just part of it. I don't hold Kobe's ball hogging against him, except in this circumstance. Again, we go back to the 2010 finals, where the Celtics' strategy against Kobe and Pau was basically this: double team Kobe. Send 2 defenders, 3 defenders at Kobe. Why? Because he'll shoot it anyway. Kobe's drive to win was Jordan-esque rather than Bill Russell-esque. What does that mean? Michael Jordan, at least at the beginning of his career, he wanted to win, but he wanted to win on his terms, which is different than just wanting to win. There's some NBA players who just want to win. They don't care how it gets done. If you need me to be over there standing in the corner just waiting to shoot, not dribbling much, I'll do it as long as we win. If that's what's best for the team, I'll do it. But some players want to win, and they want to win on their terms. They want They want to rip your heart out. Michael Jordan is described as just a violent pursuit of victory. And same with Kobe. And a lot of the time, that win-at-all-costs drive, I'm going to just stick the dagger into this team myself, that mentality is really good for a superstar. But in this scenario, if it works to the detriment of the team, when the opponent knows that you are so committed to being the guy who will win it for your team that you actually stop playing smart, that you could hold against Kobe. Another reason is people get entranced by the narrative. Kobe Bryant was the face of the league for nearly 10 years. And people remember that. He was the most famous player in the league. Fame matters. Even when you're looking at just an objective basketball player, being memorable and flash and show. We talked about how how Moses Malone gets forgotten because he wasn't flashy. Kobe was flashy, and he gets remembered for that. Now, that's not nothing, but it's also not everything. You might have noticed that I had Tim Duncan ahead of Kobe Bryant in my all-time ranking, my top 10 just then, which may be surprising to some people because Tim Duncan, like Moses Malone, was a bit of a boring player to watch. But when it comes to pure basketball, when you're comparing these guys, these legends of the game, who are all deserving of their place on Mount Rushmore in basketball history, you have to try to cut out all the fat that existed within the media and within Hollywood and within the perception of the fans and look at these guys as pure basketball players. If you care enough to do that, then you are deserving having your opinion on this thing shared. Which leaves us with our final segment of the week, which is, of course, Athlete of the Week. This week's Athlete of the Week, my cousin Benjamin. He may only be 4 foot something and weigh not a lot, but at only 10 years old, Boston native Benjamin Splansky has handles like Kyrie Irving. He shoots like Larry Bird. He has the dunking ability of Jaylen Brown and has the ears of Al Horford. Benjamin Splansky is a great basketball player in the making. Benjamin, you are this week's Athlete of the Week. This has been the OCAD Youth Sports Report. My name is Avatar Soul, and I will see you guys all in 2 weeks.